to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I would ask if there is any public comment from the board this evening. Just a couple of announcements. First of all, from the Lunenburg Public Access, they just want everyone to be aware that any televised board and committee meetings on Channel 8 are now going to be available on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel. According to the posting, these regularly scheduled live broadcasts will continue to be rebroadcast through the week. However, you can now watch the meetings on YouTube at your convenience. Meetings will be uploaded and ready to view within 48 hours following the live airing on Channel 8. All you would do is point your browser to youtube.com and then do in the search window, search for Lunenburg Access, no spaces, all one word. The L and the A, Lunenburg Access capitalized, and you will get a listing in the search results of all the meetings, and you can play them as you see fit. And you'll be able, obviously, because they'll be streamed online, you can fast forward them through parts that you don't want to see and get to the parts you do want to see. So I thank you to Lunenburg Public Access for doing that. That will make things easier for people like myself who don't have cable. Second, I wanted to announce that we have discussed that Unitil has petitioned the Commonwealth Department of Public Utilities for a rate increase. I received, as many of you might have in your last billing, important information for Unitil electric customers, wherein they describe that they have filed a petition to increase its electric-based distribution rates by $6.7 million. And the proposed increase includes, among other items, $2.1 million in storm restoration costs associated with Hurricane Sandy, the October 2011 snowstorm, and Tropical Storm Irene. According to this bulletin, if the company's petition is approved, the proposed base distribution rates will result in a monthly increase of a typical residential electric customer of $13.36, which to me is fairly substantial. I'm also not pleased that they are still trying to recover October 2001 snowstorm costs, which had been, obviously, we have fought against in the past because of their unpreparedness for that storm. And lastly, as part of the filing, they are looking for a mechanism to provide an annual revenue increase in between base rate proceedings to reflect the amount the company believes reflects its cost of providing safe and reliable distribution. So they're looking for some kind of automated increase. And most troubling, they are looking to establish a major storm reserve fund and to collect $2.8 million per year in order to address the cost of future major storms. I, for one, certainly think that those savings and those funds should come out of their high earnings that they make out of their profit margin. And I urge people, there will be a public hearing that the Department of Public Utilities is holding on September 23rd, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Fitchburg Memorial Middle School on 615 Rollstone Street in Fitchburg. I would urge people, if you believe, as I do, that many of these provisions that they're looking for are unwarranted and certainly unjustified, to be attending the public hearing and speak at that evening when asked to do so by the Department of Public Utilities. So I'll be announcing this every week that we have a meeting until that meeting of the Department of Public Utilities is held on September 23rd.
And Mr. Chairman, we will be sending a letter on behalf of the board, correct, to that hearing? Okay.
Yes. Any public comment from the public? Seeing none. So first thing, a request for a voluntary toll on Saturday, September 7th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. for the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club. Welcome, Ms. Beliza.
Thank you.
So I think this has been proposed to us already. This is something a couple weeks ago that a representative for the Boys and Girls Club asked us to consider. Have you been in touch with the police chief and done?
Yes, we
Okay.
followed up with Chief Marino. He said as long as we continue to use the cones that we do, prior to the actual toll and ensure that everyone has the safety colored attire on, that he is fine with it.
And we would ask that also anybody who's collecting in the street be over 18.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion on the voluntary toll.
I would move to approve the voluntary toll on Saturday, 9/7, from 9 a.m. to noon for the Lunenburg Boys and Girls Club.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2, a vote to certify school enrollment per the MSBA requirement. I see that Mr. Mackin is in attendance as the chair of the school building committee.
Good evening. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank you, which I was unavailable last week to do so, for the continuing collaboration with the school building committee and obviously the school committee on this project. We've been able to meet with every school, with every town department during the planning process. We've had innumerable meetings with community members, faculty members, administrators. We have begun our public information process with our meeting and the meeting of last week. We intend to have further meetings available as more and more information becomes available. And one of the first things that we're looking at come September is meetings with the Parks Department and recreational athletic groups that will be impacted by the development. We're also looking to meet with abutters during that period of time to further, discuss the impact of the project with those folks. So we look forward to continuing the collaboration that we have with the town and the community. I want to thank Mr. Matthews for his part on the school building committee, and obviously Mr. Toll for his work on the reuse committee, which is going to definitely be a factor in people's thinking about the new project. And I'd like to recognize that Mr. Ebersol has actually, come to some of our meetings and on his own dime, if I will, and I appreciate that. So again, I wanted to thank you all. I came here tonight because the superintendent is unavailable. She is out of town. She's tending to an ill mother in Wyoming who is been hospitalized now for better than a week. And understanding that there are still some folks with some outstanding questions about the enrollment, we requested the MSBA to give us an additional 2 weeks so that we could further discuss these things. And in fact, the MSBA representative has offered to come personally to meet with the Board of Selectmen or to have a phone conference at their convenience anytime next week. So that they can further understand the MSBA enrollment process. If you so wish, of course, you can continue on your vote tonight. I would certainly support that and urge that. I know there are concerns about the enrollment numbers, but the enrollment number was certified by this board preliminarily a year ago. And now, to see that, at this moment in time, the concerns have been raised to such a point that we're willing to stop the clock for another 2 weeks. You have to understand that this is a very critical piece and one that we are confident we can reach an agreement on.
It is. Mr. Mackin spoke with me earlier today about this extension. I have also heard from Mr. Matthews, who obviously, as Mr. Mackin has said, is on the school building committee as well. So we will not be taking an official vote. We will take advantage of the 2 weeks, and we will take advantage of the offer from anybody on this board who would like to have either an in-person meeting or a phone conference with the MSBA on these numbers. If that is several members or one member of this board's wish, even if it's just one member, let us know. So through Mr. Mackin, we will organize that so everybody can get the answers they're looking for at the end of this. I would like everybody to have, as best as we can, the answers to the questions they have before we take a vote. So since they've already gotten to the lengths of asking for the extension and been granted the extension, is that correct? So we will vote, that means we will be meeting on September 2nd, which is the day after Labor Day. We had talked about maybe not meeting then, but we will be meeting then, even if it's just for this one item. So I need to know the pleasure of the board as far as meeting or taking up the offer by the MSBA representative to have a meeting on the enrollment numbers.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for requesting the extension, and I personally, as one of the members that has raised these concerns, I would look forward to meeting with members of the MSBA to discuss. I've met with Loxie, I've reviewed the numbers, and I did raise this concern initially when the first schematic came forward. Again, I do completely support the construction of a new school. I think it makes sense for the community. I'm just concerned about the size of the building and remain concerned. So I would welcome the opportunity to meet with the representatives from the MSBA. And I did have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Matthews as the school committee member and a member from this board, or the liaison, and my understanding is that the MSBA is going to be providing some information as to how they arrived at their projections, because they use their own formula and their own data and may not, in fact, use the projections that the planning board provided. So I'd like to understand.
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay.
That may be a misunderstanding. I can't speak with great technical skill on the topic, but I do know that when we provided information to the MSBA, it included additional data that was provided by the planning department and by the building department, including building permit issues. Obviously, we also at one point challenged their preliminary number based on the two projects that are still under construction in town, and gave them an overview of all of the construction projects that are coming up in town, including Whalum Estates, Arrow Estates, Highfield Village, Hollis Hills. Some of these would not actually be taken into account by the MSBA for the purposes of their projections, because they can only project out 5 years, and some of these projects could not be seen to be arriving in 5 years.
I actually, Loxie and Mary Landy from the school was good enough to send me the data that was submitted to the MSBA, and perhaps there's a misunderstanding, but according to Mr. Matthews, and I thought from Loxie, the MSBA has their own formula that they utilize based on that data.
They do.
I'd like to understand what that formula is and what was factored into that
Absolutely,
formula.
and I'm sure that they'll be happy to provide that.
So I would welcome the opportunity to take advantage of meeting with them.
So let's work, and if any other members want to, I'd like to, if possible, if it's a phone conference or something, I'd like to be included. I'd like to be there too. What I would like is for anybody who has any concerns with the chair of the school building committee in front of us, if somebody can succinctly say what they are looking for before or at our next meeting, now is the time, so he has a list of anything that he's looking for.
Well, I mean, obviously, the issue that I have is enrollment, and I actually hadn't planned to go through this because I thought we were going to table this discussion, and I
want to make sure that we have questions, that the data that we're looking for is presented and available to us.
Well, what I can do is I actually prepared some notes, Mike, that I can send you, and that might be helpful.
That would be very helpful.
And what I did is take the data that I obtained from the school department and looked at the projections, and I'll tell you in short terms what my concern is that obviously right now we have 846 students from grade 6 through 12. I understand that we see a fall off in the 8th grade, because I did have an opportunity to meet with Loxie and understand that, and I understand that. But even based on the meeting last week with the superintendent, she indicated that at the time the school opens, there'll be 798 students. That's what's forecasted. My concern is that's very close to our capacity issue. And looking at the projected enrollment from 2007 through 2012, there is a definite decline over those years, and the chart is much bigger than that, but I just picked the last 5 years. And even given those numbers, grades 6 through 12 show a projected enrollment of the lowest number is 888 students. So I'm very, I pulled this directly from the charts that were provided by the school department.
We'll have further
So-
discussion on it.
So-
I can assure you that the MSBA would not build a building that would wind up being over 40, or 50 students over capacity,
Well-
because they don't want us to come back.
And that's why I want to understand what the MSBA figures in. I just pulled this actual enrollment, there's a page within the information that was sent to the MSBA or completed online that says actual enrollment data, and I pulled these numbers from that.
The actual enrollment for the folks that will first show up is 840 if you take the numbers today. But if you take out the drop-off that happens in the 8th grade, that
Right.
goes to other schools, it will be nowhere near that.
And I
also want to assure you,
right.
based on, and again, I know that we'll
Right.
arrive at a point where we can reassure you of the numbers.
And
I
that's
know
what
that
all
we'll
I'm
arrive
looking
at that
for.
point.
And
But the final thing that I want to say about it is that even if there is a sudden influx that was unaccounted for, we have capacity within the building as designed and within the school district to handle it.
Okay, and I definitely would be more interested to hear more about that, because I know in the last presentation and having met with Loxie that after the concerns were raised, that the ability to expand the building at a future date, should it become necessary, was incorporated in the schematic.
It was.
But my concern with that is I also understand, and again, I could be wrong, but that's why I want to have this discussion, is I also understand that once we build the building, we can't go back to the MSBA for that particular building for 10 years.
That's correct.
And my concern is that those expanded areas, should they become necessary, will be on the citizens of Lunenburg rather than part of this overall initial project, and that's a concern to me. Looking at the developments that are forecasted, there's over 282 homes, and one of the concerns I have, because I have two different sets of data, which I also don't understand, is when I met with Loxie on site, I received some documentation from her that was submitted to the MSBA that includes some data, and then Mary Landy, after my follow-up from last week, sent me some additional information, and the two are different, so I don't understand that either. So I really would like to go, perhaps meet with you one-on-one and go over it, or meet with members of the MSBA, but I truly want to understand.
Yeah, I think that's something that you would meet with
Yeah.
the superintendent over.
Yeah, so-
I have confidence in the superintendent
Yeah.
in her ability to
So I just
project
want to
this.
work through the numbers, and I think some of the timelines that were in the original forecast, based on my conversations with the planning board and the building official, are escalated versus on the slower track. So I'm
Well, that's
concerned about
interesting,
that.
because the representative of the planning department has been on the school building committee
Mm-hmm.
for the whole year that we've been talking about building a building of 820. It's been available for discussion.
And I don't know why we're in an adversarial situation, but
Oh, I'm
but
not.
I've-
I'm
but
not
I've-
saying that we're in an adversarial situation. I'm concerned that we have arrived at a moment after a year of talking about building an 820-person building that we're now saying that there are these concerns.
When the 820 students was brought up, the first time that I asked the question of what the capacity of the existing building was and how many students were there, and I received the answer currently between 6 and 12 of 846 students, which was the first time I had an opportunity to look at those numbers, I raised the concerns. Subsequent to that, I met with Superintendent Colmes, and I appreciate her taking the time to meet, but this is not a new issue that I've brought up.
No, I'm just saying that
it's-
this board certified that 820 on preliminarily.
Okay, but that's a preliminary. I
In-
don't want to get caught up on
in July
preliminary
of
numbers.
last year.
Right, but that's a preliminary number. But what I would like to ask, let me ask you this. Has the school building committee, of which you chair, been in any involvement with the enrollment numbers that MSBA is coming up with?
No. We have reviewed the documents that were provided. The actual people that sign off on these numbers is not the school building committee. It's the school committee and the town.
Okay. So, but the town is us, so that's
Correct.
Okay, so that's where we are now. I guess my question is, and maybe, well, you are a member of the school committee, so when the school committee reviewed them, were they comfortable with them, or did they
Absolutely,
question?
we're completely comfortable with the numbers.
Okay. Okay, so we'd have to find out why it seems to be a general disagreement, I guess, between some members who are asked to be signing off from different capacities, why why there's some discrepancy, why some people feel comfortable with them on the school committee side who has direct involvement with enrollment and enrollment trends, and why some people aren't. So I guess that would be something to hear about how the formula works from the MSBA, and that's what we can
And
do
that's
with-
exactly what I'm asking
All right,
for.
well, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's interesting because we go back through the town's history of going for schools. Usually it's the school department that's asking for a bigger building than a lot of the other town departments, so we're actually in the opposite part of what may be requested. But I too am concerned, and I'm concerned not because of who said what when, but because of changed circumstances, as Mrs. Bertram has brought up, of the development speed at which Emerald Place, Tri-Town, and the number of students that, as she's pointed out, versus what was projected by the planning department originally. So I think I would like to be involved in finding out what was submitted to the MSBA and whether things have changed enough before our meeting to certify to see whether 820 is the right number. And I would say we need to revisit those numbers and ask some more questions.
The last submission to the MSBA from the town was on April 11th of this year, with whatever current information was available.
And that's what they based their 820 on.
That's correct.
Okay. Is that document
Absolutely, it's
electronically
public
available?
document.
Can you either send us a link to it, or can you actually email all of us that document that was
Sure.
submitted? That'd be great.
Great.
And the earlier the better. So if we can get that and we can all review it, that we're all looking at the same numbers. I will, if members would submit when they're available, for either a phone, first of all, their preference, if it's a phone conference or an in-person discussion. If it's an in-person discussion, well, either way, we have to post it, so it doesn't really matter. So I'd want to know when the availability is as quickly as possible, so we can ask Mr. Mackin to coordinate that for us.
I am available Wednesday through Friday next week. I'm available Monday or Tuesday evening. But during the day I'm tied up, but I can make myself available anytime Wednesday through Friday if it's preferred to be during the day. Personally, I'd like to see an on-site meeting, but I'm
Would
Not-
everybody be willing to have a meeting next week with one agenda item, which is this, with the MSBA?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you ask?
Are you suggesting on
next Tuesday.
Tuesday evening?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that as the only agenda item.
Terrific.
But please I need to know, because town manager is out on vacation. I need to alert our office so we can post this promptly. So I need to know no later than like the morning of.
Oh, yeah,
Thursday.
we'll confirm right away tomorrow morning.
Okay, excellent. I thank you for coming and sharing that information with us.
And again, I want to thank everybody for all of their work on this. It's taken a tremendous number of people.
Yep.
And a tremendous, commitment of time by a whole bunch of people.
And you being one of them. So we're only going to do this if we all work together. So
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We will be having a workshop on policies and procedures, but that will be not on camera since all those workshops are not. We have minutes. And we have a warrant, accounts payable warrant in the amount of $139,748.16. And we have the revised base license for the Lakeview Golf Driving Range that now terminates, along with all our other licenses, with the last day of the year, midnight of the last day of the year. And that's for everybody's signature. Any action file issues? No. Committee reports, Board of Health,
They're just doing their normal, nothing controversial at the moment.
okay. Building Reuse Committee,
Building Reuse met last evening, had our first report out from one of the two committees. We met at the TC Passios building and got a tour of the building as part of our meeting. John Wanda was very good in terms of providing that for us. The first report out was preliminary but very thorough. There's an awful lot of data that's beginning to be constructed, and we're feeling real good about having a lot of stuff that we need to go through to make our recommendations. The next meeting is on September 16th here in Town Hall.
and still staying with you, Jamie, Capital Planning.
Capital Planning had a short meeting to recommend approval of a capital expenditure for the fire department, which we recommended and passed on to the town manager.
Okay. Finance Committee,
They meet this coming Thursday, and I'll be in attendance.
Library Board of Trustees,
They meet next month?
MPO,
Next month,
Planning Board,
no update since last week.
PAC.
PAC is meeting tonight. I have some information from their report, which I will get to the board.
Okay. I think we also, when the town manager returns from vacation, we want to set up a workshop between the two boards and discuss policies and that I think should either be in progress, may already be in progress, but definitely that we should need as far as how it's staffed, how does somebody request it being staffed, and just so there's guidelines. School Committee, Dave is not here. School Building Committee, Dave is not here. Sewer Commission
They'll be meeting next week.
and Mass Broadband, no updates. No town manager reports, since we have no town manager tonight. We have an appointment. Last week, Mr. Daniels asked to be appointed to the Public Access Cable Committee. And my understanding, he would like to serve, it was a choice between a 1 or a 3-year term. He has asked to serve a 1-year term. And I put that before the board for your approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just note that I spoke with the Ethics Commission, and because there's no compensation involved with this position and there is no competition for the slot, I am allowed to participate.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, had Mr. Daniels been here, I just had one question, and it's really not a pass-fail question, but one of the things I'm interested in, I'm thrilled that someone wants to join the PAC, and looking forward to kind of having a full complement on that committee. But I'm also concerned that a majority, if not all, members of the PAC have cable TV. And I was going to ask him if he did. Now, like I said, it's not a pass-fail, but it's something I'd like to keep in mind when we make these appointments.
Sure.
He does.
Thank you.
I would make a motion to appoint Troy Daniels to the PAC for a 1-year term.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, so it is unanimous. We have no executive session tonight. I will append this meeting schedule that August 27th, the sole agenda item will be, we may have some housekeeping particulars like accounts payables and things like that, but the sole one, as if Mr. Mackin confirms it with me, is the MSBA, and we can sit down and talk enrollment as long as we'd like.
That meeting will probably not be here, depending on whether the Sewer Commission is meeting or not.
Let's see if we can make it, and then we'll find a location for it, sure. And again, it has to be posted, so I don't know if a majority of your committee will be there or not, but we just have to make sure it's posted by noon or not by noon, by like 4 on Thursday. That's the latest we can post for a Tuesday meeting.
We'll post it for ours as well.
Okay. Okay, we are going to go off camera and do a policies and procedures, which is a workshop, which is a lot of reading documents that we don't have for the public, so we always do this in a workshop setting. So before we do end the televised portion, of course, anybody who's here is welcome to stay. I would ask if there's any further public comment from the board. Any public comment from the public? Okay, so I would wish everybody good night, and we may see you next Tuesday evening. If we do have it, I believe it will be televised. I think it's important information for people to hear, so good night, everyone.